Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Roger Paul, and tonight we're going to continue our study with the Supreme Trinity Personalities. It's on paper 18, and we're on page 210 for those who are following in the book. And welcome everybody from home. And since we're just starting out tonight again, I need to say this every now and then so people know where to find all this stuff. All these pictures and all this stuff I have in this version of the Urantia book, I put them in myself. Been doing it for several years, but they're on both of our websites. You see where my little pointer is at the Fifth Epical Revelation Fellowship website.com. It's also on the Atlanta Urantia Study Group.com. The pages are exactly the same. But if you go over to the side, there's a little thing that says UB book version links. Click on that, and it will take you to 8 different versions of the book. And each one has different things that's different than them. The one I use is one down at his says BI. That means it's a blue background and it's illustrated. And that's the one we use for our classes. And I wanted to mention that because people email me occasionally and ask where this book comes from and that sort of thing. And this is my specialized version that I've taken from many different sources over the years. Originally, it was the fellowship did a lot of these, and that's why it's got links and things like that. So that's where this version of the book comes from. All right, so you can find that at Fifth Epical Revelation Fellowship or the Atlanta Urantia Study Group, either one. That's exactly the same.
Good to know, Roger.
All right, yeah. So that's for those at home that have not joined us before. Let me go back to the page here. So let's say a short prayer and we'll get started. All right. Hi, Melly. Father, thank you for bringing us together tonight and allowing us to study this wonderful revelation. Bridge will be with us and your angels will be with us tonight, that we might open our hearts and minds and learn a little bit of something and share it with others. That's the purpose of doing this. And we thank you for the opportunity to do this and share with each other. We pray that you'll watch over our families and our friends. We say this in the name of your son, Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. Amen.
Amen.
Amen and amen. Diane, you are at the top tonight, dear.
I am.
Yep.
Oh, dear.
For the perfections of days. There are just 210 perfections of days, and they preside over the governments of the 10 major sectors of each super-universe. They were trinitized for the special work of assisting the super-universe directors, and they rule as the immediate and personal vicegerents of the Ancients of Days.
Good stuff in this first paragraph. For the very first paragraph, I'm going to go to the paper on the constellations. And you'll notice here it says major sectors. You see that? And it says there's 70 major sectors, right? There's 10 for each super universe. So guess how many perfections of days there are then? If there's 3 in each
70.
one, huh? No, there's
70?
210. 3 times that, because there's 3 for each of the major sectors. Okay, so it'd be 210. All right, follow me?
So,
Remember,
Roger, similar to the Ancients of Days,
similar to the
3
Ancients of
per
Days.
super universe.
Right,
There's
that's
3
right.
of these per
Now you could
major sector.
find the same thing in the minor sectors, right? There's 3 for each minor sector, and there's 7,000 minor sectors. So guess how many
Let's see.
there are?
21,000.
21,000. That's right. Y'all are so smart. Good. Make me look bad. No. Okay. So there's just 210 of these perfections of days, and they are the heads of the major sectors in each super universe. All right. Now it says they were trinitized for this work as the directors. All right. So they were trinitized just for the purpose of managing the major sectors. And it's interesting here because they say they are the immediate and personal vicegerents of the Ancients of Days. So what does that mean?
Quite an honor.
Quite
You go to them first if you have a dispute.
You got it, Gary. You hit it right on the head. Any disputes goes through the minor sectors, then the major sectors, and they're the vicegerents. And if they decide they're in the position to make a ruling on this, it's just like the Ancients of Days makes it. Okay, so that's really important. Now, what would be the one exception in this? Annihilation of a being, right?
Yes.
That has to go to the Ancients of Days directly. Okay, but any other problems they can handle on their own. So this is a
Can
little
you say
picture.
that again?
There's an
What
exception. There's an exception of taking problems to them, and that is annihilation of a being. In other words, if you've been judged in rebellion of the universe, they cannot make a decision of taking you out, annihilating you, right? Only the Ancients of Days has that right. And it has to be all three of the Ancients of Days, not just one of them, right? So if you get adjudged in violation of rebellion of the universe, all three of the Ancients of Days must agree on the decision. Okay. All right, so here's a little picture, and it shows the perfection of days under U major the fifth. That's where we're at. We're in the fifth major sectors, because there's 10 of them, right? And they're the vicegerents of whom? The Ancients of Days, right? And this shows all the little satellites that's surrounding U major the fifth. All right. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Jane, you're up next.
Okay. 3 perfections of days are assigned to each major sector capital, but unlike the Ancients of Days, it is not necessary that all 3 be present at all times. From time to time, one of this trio may absent himself to confer in person with the Ancient of Days concerning the welfare of his realm.
So all three of them don't have to be there all the time, do they? Unlike the Ancients of Days. The Ancients of Days never leave Uversa, all right? They're always in charge on Uversa, but cats going across my screen here. But the perfections of days can excuse themselves and go confer with the Ancients of Days themselves. Okay, so that's a little bit different. All right, so there's the perfections of days. All right.
Roger, I have a question.
Yeah, go right ahead, Rodney.
How many satellite planets are around U major the fifth?
Oh, Lord.
Capital. I mean, that
believe
is,
it says,
that's
yeah,
the capital of
yeah, that's the
the
capital.
yeah.
You know, Rodney, I don't remember off the top of my head. I really don't.
Okay, it's all right.
I will find it somewhere in this tonight,
I was
probably.
just curious.
Yeah. I don't remember how many there are, though. Probably says in one of these slides, more than likely. No,
But it's not.
I don't, yeah.
that
We'll come
important.
across it. I'll point it out
Yeah.
again when I come across it. Okay. All right. U major the fifth is the capital, okay, of what? The major sector of Splandon. Okay. Splandon is the name of the fifth major sector. Okay. And there's the 3 major perfections of days, and there's U major the fifth. And I can't believe I can't remember off the top of my head how many planets there are. I'll come across it though.
Landon.
Yep. Okay. Now, the next paragraph, after the next paragraph, I have a question for y'all. Okay. Not about this paragraph, but the one after this, because there's 2 ways that we can do this. Let me hit sectors here and see if it says off the top of my head how many's 70 study worlds that surround it. 70 study worlds. And I need to make a correction from last time. I said something in error and I need to straighten it out because it's right here in front of me again. I read it today and I thought, oh, I don't believe I said that, but I did. the celestial guardians. I call them the guardians of the universe.
The guardians of what?
Of the universe.
Yes, you did. I was curious about
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
We love that show.
Yeah.
Really
Remember
love that
Guardians, Guardians of the
Yeah, and I'd
Superuniverse.
never heard. It
Yeah.
sounded like Star Wars or something.
Well, the Guardians of the Universe is a movie. It's a good movie.
It's a really good movie, Rodney. You should see it.
It is. But I'm getting
We've
my
seen it.
movies mixed up with my study.
We've
So
seen it several times.
Instead, they're called what?
Celestial Guardians, not Guardians of the Universe. And it's the Celestial Guardians are the apprehension unit for the Ancients of Days.
It's actually the Guardians of
Oh.
Galaxies, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Galaxy, yeah, that's the one.
Mm.
Right. Now everybody's confused, right? But it's Celestial Guardians is the apprehension
Yeah,
division.
Guardians of the Universe.
Yeah,
I have it written down here.
Yeah. Celestial Guardians. But the divine executioners I got right. Okay. Let's go ahead. Let me go ahead and ask this question before we just go on to the next paragraph. There is two ways I can approach the next paragraph after this one. Okay. And that is this. We can just read through it and I can skip over these highlighted things in the paragraph, right? Or we can slow down and take each one of these and learn a little bit about each one of them as we go. Would y'all rather do it that way, or would you just go through the paragraph?
I'd love to learn about each one myself.
Okay, is everybody,
It's up to everyone else.
is that everybody in agreement on that? Kind of
Whatever you
enlightens.
think is best, Roger.
I think it enlightens the study of this, because if you know who you're dealing with, then it makes a little more sense to me.
Okay.
Okay, because these, to most people, when they read divine counselors, perfecters of wisdoms, universal censors, and things like that, they're lost. They have no idea what they do, right? And if you know a little bit about them, especially the universal censors, because the universal censors are the ones that verify when you go, when after you die and the guardian angel takes your records or your transcripts for judgment, along with what? The adjuster, right? The adjuster and the guardian angel has to agree on your transcript. The celestial censors have to verify it. Okay. That way, when your case goes before the Ancients of Days, the universal censors have said, yes, this is all correct. Okay, so that's why knowing a little bit about these things is important. Okay, so let's go on to the triune rulers.
I've got a question now.
Okay, go ahead.
I always thought that you only went to judgment if you were rebellious.
No,
I mean, I didn't realize that everyone goes past
to a first,
through
yeah,
judgment.
yeah, everyone passes
Period.
through a first period. Yeah.
Okay.
Not just if you rebel, but you go through a judgment, because if you, in a sense, they justify your life, right? That you are salvageable. And that's what this is all about, really. And they do this all through reflectivity, right? So the guardian angel probably goes to our local universe capital along with the adjuster. And then in the local universe capital is a universal censor who justifies what the guardian angel has reported and the adjuster reports, right? In other words, what they come to a decision on is there anything salvageable about this person for them to wake up on the mansion world? That's the number one decision. Everything else is a side note, really. The only thing they want to know is, can they send you to the mansion world? You proceed on so you can keep learning, and they can get rid of all these beastly tendencies you have and get rid of the mark of the beast, right? Okay.
I wonder if, go ahead.
No, I'm done.
I wonder if when they're, they're so generous in their interpretation
Yeah.
that there's so many that could be just say go, and if they just have the certain questionable ones to be redlined, and so they just judge on those and blanket pass.
Yeah. Well, Gary, that's why Lucifer said everyone goes on to the first mansion world, right?
That's what I mean.
Yeah, that's not true. It's not true. There are some beings that aren't salvageable and they aren't saved. That's why Jesus said, remember when you always have to come back to Jesus's life, and he's the creator of this universe, right? And he always, what does he tell the apostles constantly? Let's go save some souls. Remember that?
What's that?
Let's go save some souls.
Oh,
Okay. That's what he was there for, just for salvation. Okay. So let's go on to the next paragraph. Did you just read? You just read, Jane, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Okay, Rodney, would you take the next one?
Is it these Triune rulers?
Yes. Triune
Um,
rulers.
Okay. These Triune rulers of the major sectors are peculiarly perfect in the mastery of administrative details, hence their name, perfections of days. In recording the names of these beings of the spiritual world, we are confronted with the problem of translating into your tongue, and very often it is exceedingly difficult to render a satisfactory translation. We dislike to use arbitrary designations which would be meaningless to you. Hence, we often find it difficult to choose a suitable name, one which will be clear to you and at the same time be somewhat representative of the original.
So all of these Trinity origin beings, they've tried to name in such a way that it makes sense to us. Okay, that's what they're saying here. Okay, so the perfections of days are named perfections of days because they're mastery of administrative details. All right, so they're perfect at it. All right, so that's why they're named perfection of days, and they are the heads of the major sectors. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Gary, would you take the next one, please? Let me raise it up just a tad. Okay. You're muted, Gary.
okay.
Yeah.
The perfections of days have a moderate sized core of divine counselors, perfecters of wisdom, and universal censors attached to their government. They have still larger numbers of mighty messengers, those high in authority and those without name and number. But much of the routine work of major sector affairs is carried on by the celestial guardians and the high sun assistants. These two groups are drawn from among the
Trinitized.
He stopped. Gary, your video stopped on us. Hold on.
huh?
Yeah, it came back. Okay. Start from these two groups again, because you bleeped out.
I think my internet's messing me up. I just get a flash that's irregular.
Yeah.
Okay, where am I at?
These two groups are drawn from among.
These two groups are drawn from among the Trinitized offspring of either Paradise Savona personalities or glorified mortal finaliters. Certain of these two orders of creature Trinitized beings are re-Trinitized by the Paradise deities and then are dispatched to assist in the administration of the super universe governments.
Okay, I'm going to try to break this down and make this have sense for you. Okay, First, let's look at the divine counselors. Okay, and if we go to the index under divine counselors, we can see there's 21 billion of these in service. It takes them 109 days to leave Uversa and get to Urantia. Okay, that shows you the distance between Uversa and Urantia. They're coordinates of the perfecters of wisdom and universal censors. I'm not going to read all of these, but they are the I will be of judgment. Okay, there's three parts of the judgment, and they are the I will be of that part of judgment. They reside in the Jerusalem circles. Okay, we know, do you remember what the Jerusalem circles are? No. Jerusalem circles are circles for divine beings on the planet Jerusalem. Okay, and when we study that, you'll see a whole bunch more of that. They have service as high assistants. Most high assistants many times, and they serve the universe government courts. So that's what they're called, divine counselors. They're like counselors or lawyers in our world, right? They advise people. They also train celestial recorders on Uversa, and we remember the celestial recorders record everything that happens to everyone. Okay, and they also wrote all of these papers in this list. One very important, and that is the forward. You see that? Oh, yeah. Okay, so it's a divine counselor that writes the forward. These are Trinity origin being, and they're on the council of deity to the super universes, right? The other thing that's really important about this is they are the highest source of truth on evolutionary planets. So when they tell us about the forward, when they tell us about anything in this book, any of these papers they wrote, they are the highest source of information or truth on these things. Okay, so you see why it's important to understand what they're talking about. Now, if we go back to the paragraph, you see the perfections of days has a moderate sized core of these beings. Okay, they also have perfecters of wisdom and universal censors. So let's look at the perfecters of wisdom windows real quick. They are the wisdom of the Trinity. I'd say that's pretty important, right? There's 7 billion of them, no more being recorded. They're the coordinates or partners of divine counselors and universal censors. So they're a trio, right? The trio is the perfecters of windows, the divine counselor, and universal censors. Okay, so they're a group of 3. Okay, what did you say? Did I say windows? They are the voices of wisdom in the universe. They serve as court clerks, and they are the I was. Remember what the last one was? The I will, I was, and the next one's going to be the I am, I believe it, or I will be, something like that. All right, and they also reside in the Jerusalem circles, and they're on the major sectors too. All right. And there's some other things they do. They are the voices of wisdom, souls of philosophy, union of souls, are reflective associates of these beings. Okay, all these things you've heard. And they are also the associates of the highest source of truth on evolutionary planets. And there's all the papers that they wrote. Okay, so we have some pretty high people that wrote this stuff, right? All right, and let's go on to the universal censors, which we talked a little bit about earlier, right? The universal censors, they are the discerners of spirits, are reflective associates of these. There's 8 billion of them. They also serve as clerks. They're also in liaison with the deity absolute. Remember what the deity absolute was? One of the 3 absolutes past God the Father, God the Son, God the Spirit. All right, they also reside in the Jerusalem circles. They are Trinity origin beings also. And the Ancient of Days, this is very important. The Ancients of Days never sit in judgment without a universal censor. Why is that? Because they verify the records of whom? The guardian angels and the adjusters. Okay, so the Ancients of Days will never sit in judgment on anybody without a universal censor there verifying the records. Okay, it's kind of like a backup system.
And they represent the I am.
They represent the I am, right? There's three parts. What was the first two?
I will, I
I will.
was.
I will, I was, and I am, right? The three parts. That's why there's three different types of beings. All right. They are also associates are the highest truth of the evolutionary planets. And this is all the papers they wrote. All right. Pretty important being. Does this help a little bit to know what these beings do?
Yes.
Okay. So let's go back and look at the sentence again. The perfections they have a moderate sized course of divine counselors, perfecters of wisdom, the universal censors attached to their governments. Now, what does that mean? That means the highest form of truth comes from these types of beings, right? So when the perfections of days make any decision, they have all the facts. Make sense?
Mhm.
See the importance of these. All right, let's take a quick look at mighty messengers. Mighty messengers. Excuse me. Mighty messengers are the types of beings that we as mortals can become. But guess what you have to go through to become a mighty messenger? You have to have been on a planet like, guess where? Here, Urantia. Mortals ascenders who stood loyal in face of disloyalty of their superiors. Is that not explain what happened to us? So if you stayed loyal, even though this planet has been in rebellion for 250,000 years, you have the opportunity to become what? Mighty
A
messenger.
mighty messenger.
Right? They also call them avendanters. Okay? For your own information. All right. And these are rebellion tested, perfected mortals who were trinitized after becoming finaliters. Okay. So that's why it's important to know who these beings are, right? That's mighty messengers. Let's look at another one that are from human beings, those high in authority. These are adjuster fused mortals with superior administrative ability. Okay, so as you go through the universe, okay, through the minor sectors and major sectors, if you demonstrate you have a superior knowledge or a superior ability to administrative things like running planets, running cities, running things like that, then you are in tune to become what? Those high in authority. Make sense? So it shows why it takes us so long to get up to that point. Right now, there's a number over 70 billion of these beings out there that's got to this point, those high in authority, right? And these are trinitized human beings that's been embraced by the Trinity, finaliters. Okay, so that's another group of mortals. All right. And then there's another one more here. Those without name and number. All right. And these are embraced by the Trinity also, but these are finaliters who have transcended the concept of the Father's eternal purpose. Okay.
What's that mean?
That means you've gotten up to the concept so high of the universal Father that you're higher than the average being, so you're above having a name or number. That's what they call those without name and number. Okay.
So you're saying that person is on such a spiritual plane as with the Father.
That's right.
What you're trying to say?
In tune with the Father perfectly. Makes sense? And those are the ones with those without name and number. And they are part of the Trinitized Sons of Attainment. They've attained this status. Okay. And they work many times as supreme jurors in the super universe courts. In other words, something comes up in the super universe courts, they call in those without name and number to advise the courts, right? Because they've been through it. All right. And they're also the superior spiritual minds of the survival races. In other words, the highest spiritual minds of the races. And they serve on the major sectors and the super universe government. Okay. So that's pretty high up.
It's really interesting that they show us what we can become.
What we become. There's three types of beings we can grow into. All right. Now let's go on. Much of the talk, they talk about the routine work of the major sector is carried on by celestial guardians and high sons of assistance. Now let's take one more quick look at celestial guardians, right? These are not human beings. Okay, these are celestial beings. That's why they're called celestial guardians, right? These are Trinitized sons of perfection. All right. And they carry out a lot of the routine work in the minor and the major sectors. They're assisted by sun fused mortals and spirit fused mortals. Okay. Those who have not been able to attain fusing with their adjusters. Okay, they become either spirit or sun fused mortals. They are not indwelt by adjusters. Why would that be? Because if they're sun fused or spirit fused, they could not fuse with the adjuster, so they don't have an adjuster, right? All right. But they are the celestial guardians carry out the court messengers and bear summonses and decisions of the court out to the universe, right? All right. And they deal mostly with individuals, not groups. Okay. And they are the apprehension arm of it. Now, the high sons assistants, these are Trinitized sons of perfection, and they carry out the routine work of the major and minor sectors. Okay. They are not indwelt by adjusters also. Okay, so they have no adjusters. They're permanently assigned to their group, and there's 8.75 million in the super universe. They are of more distinguished performance than the celestial guardians. They're usually the private secretaries of high super universe sons, and they're embraced Trinity embraced finaliter and paratized Havona Trinitized finaliters, and these are finaliters that I don't want to get into that. I'll spend the rest of the night on that. I'll leave that at that. Okay. And there's also a high spirit personality for the circuit control, then that's not revealed to us. It says it's unrevealed. They just mention it. All right. There are two more groups that are, or these two groups are drawn from either the Trinitized beings re-Trinitized by the Paradise deities. All right. Now, drawn from the Paradise Havoni personalities and glorified mortal finalities, both. What are we talking about? Paradise Havona personalities. These are natives to Paradise and Havona. Okay, so they can serve in this capacity. And then there's also glorified mortal finaliters in this group also, right? And these two orders of beings are re-Trinitized by the Paradise governments to do this job. All right. So even though the mortals become finaliters, they're re-Trinitized, re-embraced by the Trinity to be able to do this job. Make sense? Did that help breaking that down a little bit?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so we didn't waste our time then. Okay, Millie, would you take the next one? Most of the celestial guardians. You're muted, Millie.
I would rather not read tonight. Let me just listen.
Okay, that's fine. Diane, would you take the next one?
Most of the celestial guardians and the high sun assistants are assigned to the service of the major and minor sectors, but the Trinitized custodians, Trinity embraced seraphim and midwayers, are the officers of the courts of all three divisions, functioning in the tribunals of the ancients of days, the perfection of days, and the recence of days. The Trinitized ambassadors, Trinity embraced ascendant mortals of sun or spirit fused nature, may be encountered anywhere in a super universe, but the majority are in the service of the minor sectors.
Okay, so the celestial guardians and the high sun's assistant are mostly assigned to the service in the major sector, but they can also be assigned to the minor sectors, right? But they also have something called the Trinitized custodians, and these are Trinity embraced seraphim. They've gotten up just like we do to the top level, and they become Trinity embraced and midwayers. Yeah. So this is the possibility for those two groups to continue on in service, right? With the courts of the ancients of days, the perfection of days, the recence of days, right? And then there's the Trinitized ambassadors, and these are Trinity embraced ascendant mortals of sun or spirit fused natures. These Trinity embraced mortals do not have adjusters, okay? Because they are sun or spirit fused, so they wouldn't fuse with an adjuster, right? And they can become Trinitized ambassadors, and they can be anywhere in the super universe, but most of them are in the minor sectors. Okay, why would they be in the minor sectors? Does that make sense to y'all? Because they only got up to in height to a certain point. Most of them stay mostly in the local universes, right? Because they're sun or spirit fused. So most of their life is spent in a local universe. But if they get to the point where they are ready for a Trinity embrace, then they can move to the minor sector, which is above the local universe. And that's why that is. And they're in service this way because they're only sun or spirit fused mortals. They're not adjuster fused, right? To become a, how do I want to say this? To become a adjuster fuse finaliter, you have to have had an adjuster fusion early on. Okay. And these beings do not.
Roger,
Oh, yeah.
is that a choice?
In essence, Jane, it's a choice, but it's not. Okay. They're limited by their inability to fuse with an adjuster. Okay.
Oh.
And many of these beings come from the early masses of the planets when they're very, very young. In other words, they're very, very barbaric. So it's basically the point is that they may have received an adjuster when the planet was very, very young, but spiritually they didn't have the opportunity to grow on a planet. So when they get to the mansion worlds, they don't have the capacity for fusion. Okay, so since they don't have a capacity for fusion, then they're provided either with a sun fragment or a spirit fragment, and they fuse with those. But usually when that happens, that limits them to the local universe or the minor sector, one of the two. Okay, so they don't go all the way to paradise. I mean, to Havana and paradise.
Roger, what happens to the thought adjuster?
The thought adjuster is to release to be used in another person. Okay.
Which, like
us.
We have on Earth. Yeah,
that's right. See, all of the adjusters on the planet Earth or on Urantia have previous experience, all of them. Okay, so all of the adjusters that come to dwell, all of us have had an experience in dwelling one of these types of beings that become spirit fused. Okay. And then that adjuster was released because that person couldn't fuse with that adjuster. Okay. So when that adjuster is released, it goes back to Divinington, it gets reassigned to another planet, and they come to just like a planet like ours. So all the adjusters that came to this planet are more advanced adjusters because they've already had one life in a previous person. So each one of you have an adjuster that has lived in another being for an entire life when you got them.
Would
Okay.
these adjusters be coming from people that was pre-Fonda?
Yeah, that's a good example, Gary. It would be Yvonne and Fonda. Yeah, that would be a perfect example because the beings are so barbaric, they don't fashion their life around spiritual concepts. Okay, they're just surviving through life, but they did get to a point where they believed in a higher source or a deity, so they were justified for survival. Okay, remember when we talked about the judgment, the first judgment? These beings had enough belief in a higher source like God to make it to the first mansion world, but they didn't live a spiritual life like we do. Okay, we have a spiritual life. It's hard to believe on this planet, but we have a spiritual life going on right now because we have spiritual decisions every single day. And these early people, the early people on earth before the Kalagasa 100 came, these people, that their life was not surrounded around trying to think about God and spiritual things and things like that. Their life was surrounded by survival, trying to make food, trying to stay alive, trying to keep away from the animals that was eating them, you know, that sort of thing. So it's pretty barbaric, but they had enough belief that they would survive, that they make it to the first mansion world. Okay. They just didn't have the capacity to fuse with an adjuster. It takes a whole lifetime for someone to experience their adjuster to get to the point where they're really building themselves up a record so they're ready to fuse with that adjuster. You know, and then even after we get on the mansion worlds, most people, it takes about the 5th mansion world before you're ready to fuse, right? So have I beat that to death?
No,
Long journey.
Long journey. It is.
thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. All right, let's go on to the next one. Now I've lost track of where we are. Who's reading next?
I just finished.
You just okay, Jane, you're the next one.
Okay.
Before the times of full unfolding.
Before the times of the full unfolding of the governmental scheme of the 7 super universes, practically all administrators of the various divisions of these governments, excepting the Ancients of Days, served apprenticeships of varying duration under the Eternals of Days on the various worlds of the perfect Havona universe. The later Trinitized beings likewise passed through a season of training under the Eternals of Days before they were attached to the service of the Ancients of Days, the Perfections of Days, and the Recents of Days. They are all seasoned, tried, and experienced administrators.
Now, remember it said in the previous paragraph, all these beings came from what? Finalitors, right? Finalitors, which is what we will be. So all of these beings had to go through all billion worlds of Havona, right? So they all gain experience in administration all the way through Havona, and that's what they're talking about here. So they all become seasoned administrators by watching the Eternals of Days, right? And learning from them. We got 1 billion of them. So I guess after 1 billion times, you probably got it down pretty good, right? All right. Rodney, would you take the next one, please?
Yes. You will early see the perfections of days when you advance to the headquarters of Splandon after your sojourn on the worlds of your minor sector. For these exalted rulers are closely associated with the 70 major sector worlds of higher training for the ascendant creatures of time. the perfecters of days, perfections
Perfections. Yeah.
of days in person administer the group pledges to the ascending graduates of the major sector schools.
Now, what do you think that is? The pledge. As you're leaving the major sector, you have to take a pledge to the super universe before you're ready to go on to where? Uversa, right? So that's what it's talking about. These perfections of days gives you the group pledge before you travel on to the next level, which would be Uversa. All right. Okay, I'm going to fix one up. Okay. Gary, would you take the next one, the work of pilgrims?
World surrounding a major sector headquarters is chiefly of an intellectual nature, in contrast with the more physical and material character of the training on the 7 educational spheres of a major sector, and with the spiritual undertaking, and I've got a thing I can't read through on the whatever it is.
490 university worlds of a super universe headquarters.
Thank you.
490 university worlds. So the 70 around the headquarters of U Major the 5th, right? And then there's, well, I just read it. 490 around Uversa. Okay. All right. So I find this really interesting. Let me show you a little picture here. Let's go down a little bit farther. All right. This is the 7 worlds that surround U minor the 3rd. Okay. And we have to go through all 7 of these. An interesting point, though, is we only go through one minor sector. You got me? Only one of them. So there's only 7 worlds. But when we get to the major sector, right? There's 70 worlds, right? And we have to go through all 10 of the major sectors. So that's 70 worlds times what? 10. What does that equal? 700 worlds, right? You kind of see why you can't get in a hurry. Now, another interesting thing is this. When you're going through these 7 worlds in the minor sector, they say it's a more physical learning, okay? You do physical work. And what you study is about the physical world of the universe, okay? The master physical controllers and that sort of thing, right? But when you get to the major sector, then it's more intellectual work, okay? I'm going to one-up you on here. When you get to Uversa, guess what it is?
Spiritual.
Spiritual work. That's right. Makes sense?
Yes.
As you go up more higher and higher, then your learning changes, right? And that's what they're talking about here. One being an intellectual nature, one is spiritual, and one a physical, right? All right. Let's go on to the next one. Diane, would you take the next one again? Although
you are entered only upon the registry of the major sector of Splanton, which embraces the local universe of your origin, you will have to pass through every one of the 10 major divisions of our super universe. You will see all 30 of the Orvanton perfections of days before you reach Uversa.
you catch that? You have to go through all 10 major sectors, but you only have to go through one.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. You only have to go through one minor sector. Right?
We're never going to get there.
Oh yeah, you'll get there because there's lots of finaliters out there, right? Just takes a long time, right? Can't get in a hurry. All right, let's, okay, I was going to try to move on to the recents today. We got about 10 more minutes. We can get some of this done. Okay, the recents of days. Jane, would you take the first one on that?
Okay. The recents of days are the youngest of the supreme directors of the super universes. In groups of 3, they preside over the affairs of the minor sectors. In nature, they are coordinate with the perfections of days, but in administrative authority, they are subordinate. There are just 21,000 of these personally glorious and divinely efficient Trinity personalities. They were created simultaneously and together they passed through their Havona training under the eternals of days.
Okay, let's go back to our constellations again. So the minor sectors is what? 7,000 of them, right?
Mhm.
7 super universes. So that makes 21,000 recents of days. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, and they are the subordinates to the perfections of days. Makes sense? So they are under the authority of the perfections of days. Okay, and there's 3 of those in each of the minor sectors. Okay, we'll meet all 3 of those in our minor sector, but we won't meet any other recents of days in other minor sectors. Okay, so we only have to go through one of those, right? All right, Rodney, would you take the next one?
The recents of days have a core of associates and assistants similar to that of the perfections of days. In addition, they have assigned to them enormous numbers of the various subordinate orders of celestial beings. In the administration of the minor sectors, they utilize large numbers of the resident ascending mortals. The personnel of the various courtesy colonies and the various groups originating in the infinite spirit.
Now, why would there be the groups originating in the infinite spirit? Because all other groups, the power associate, the physical controllers, the master physical controllers, everything having to do, the supreme power centers, all those are what? Have to do with organization of the universe, and they all
With the
fall under,
physical.
yeah, the physical, and they all fall under the infinite spirit, correct?
Okay.
Okay. And this is us leaving Salvington, our local universe, and we'll go to the first world, the second world, the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, and eventually to U minor, the third, which is the capital of INSA, a minor sector. Okay. All right, let's go on to the next paragraph. Gary, would you take the next one?
The governments of the minor sectors are very largely, though not exclusively, concerned with the great physical problems of the super universes. The minor sector spheres are the headquarters of the master physical controllers. On these worlds, ascending mortals carry on studies and experiments having to do with an examination of the activities of the third order of the supreme power centers and of all 7 orders of the master physical controllers.
Remember, the master physical controllers are the being that control everything physical, right? It took master physical controllers for Jesus to heal all those people the night he was out healing 400 something people at a time. It also took the master physical controllers when Jesus did what? Provided fishes and loaves to feed all the people. Remember that story? It was the master physical controllers that took that. And the third order of the supreme power directors, you know, the supreme power directors keep everything running, right? All the electrons, the neutrons, and everything. That's what their job is. All right.
So
all
these
about-
guys would be the ones that would offset the global warming if there's any such thing.
Exactly right, Gary. They would be in charge of taking care of that. Okay, to keep us from burning ourselves out. All right, that's their job, right? My job, man. All right, Diane, would you take the next one, please?
Since the regime of a minor sector is so extensively concerned with physical problems, its 3 reasons of days are seldom together on the capital sphere. Most of the time, one is away in conference with the perfections of days of the supervising major sector, or absent with while representing the ancients of days at the paradise conclaves of the high Trinity origin beings. They alternate with the perfections of days and representing the ancients of days at the supreme councils on paradise. Meanwhile, another reason of days may be away on a tour of inspection of the headquarters worlds of the local universes belonging to his jurisdiction. But at least one of these rulers always remains on duty at the headquarters of a minor sector.
So they're busy little bees, aren't they? Right. So they don't all 3 stay at the same place at the same time. Right. Most of the time, 2 of them are out doing other thing. And why would this be? Because there's multiple problems going on with running a physical part of multiple universes, isn't there? I mean, it's beyond our concepts, right? All right. And remember, they're also involved in evolving new planets and universes constantly as we're growing. And that's what we're doing, right?
Roger,
Right. Yeah.
what's the maximum number of universes there could be in a minor sector?
In a minor sector.
Yes.
All right, let's go back here and look. Minor sector. All right. Minor sector is 100 universes.
100.
Yep. That's 1 billion worlds.
Yeah, 100. So 100 universes. There's 3 reasons of days
Yeah.
for 100
Taking-
universes.
For 100 universes.
Oh
right.
my gosh.
We're talking about universes like Michael's universe, right?
That's what I mean.
Our universe, right? 100 of those. All right, for a minor sector. Makes sense?
Mhm.
That's why these charts and stuff in the constellations come in handy, you know? All right, we only got a couple more
Can't even
minutes.
read some of these numbers.
Huh?
I can't even read some of these numbers.
Oh, I know. You know, it gets up to the numbers that's beyond human concepts, you know? We got one more paragraph and then we'll stop here and taking up the union of days next time. Jane, would you take that last paragraph, please?
Yes. You will all sometime know the 3 reasons of days in charge of ENSA, your minor sector, since you must pass through their hands on your way inward to the training worlds of the major sectors. In ascending to Uversa, you will pass through only one group of minor sector training spheres.
That's where it says it right there. So you will only go through one group of these 7 training worlds on our minor sector of INSA. You, right? And the capital is U minor, the 3rd. All right, and we'll stop there and we'll take up the union of days next time. We're going to shift gears a little bit next time because what they do is a little bit different than the others, right? Okay. All right. Let's see here. Dear, would you like to pray for us tonight?
Dearest Father, we thank you so much for this opportunity to share and to learn and grow together. We thank you for the preparation it does for us and to us and with all whom we meet to try to explain it, or at least, explain a little bit of what's going to be our future. And we are so humbled by the order that you have established forever and ever. And we are just grateful to have a small view of what's going on and what we will be experiencing and what others. And look forward to the opportunity to meet so many different beings that God has created. And we thank you that you've created them and your order is so perfect. We're honored to be a part of this. Thank you.
Man. Now y'all understand why when someone asks you what this book is about, all you can say is everything, right? Because that's what it's about. It's about everything, right? Thank y'all at home for joining us. Please come see us again. Let me stop the recording here. Go ahead and stop that one there.